Are we live? Estamos en vivo, Fernando. Perfecto. Excelente. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Carl from Abundant Living Ecuador. Today, unfortunately, Jesse Bayer wasn't available. Jesse's actually on the beach right now, enjoying the sun right before our upcoming retreat, which is happening in 2 days on July 16th. Jesse went to relax a little bit on the beach, so he doesn't have a very good internet connection over there. Ryan is also unavailable, so tonight I'm going to be by myself here answering your questions here live on YouTube. All right, I am trying to see here if I can. All right, good. There you go. There is one question. Fantastic. I wasn't sure if I would be able to see the questions, but I see that Edwin Aguilar is here in the chat. Edwin is asking, how often do we feel earthquake? Do we get used to them? So far, I've been here 11 years now. It's going to be 11 years in August. I think I felt about 3 earthquakes only. There was a few, I would call them big ones, but Vilcabamba was not the epicenter. Vilcabamba or Loja weren't affected basically at all by the earthquakes, other than we could feel them. We could feel some of the waves. But the epicenters typically, one time was on the coast. That was pretty devastating for the area where it was happening over there by Pedernales on the coast. A lot of things were destroyed there. We felt that one pretty strongly here. But it was actually the first time in my life I felt an earthquake then. But, I don't think it was a cause of panic for anyone here. It's just an interesting feeling when you start feeling the earth moving. Yeah, like I said, I think I might have felt only 3, but I think there might have been 4 or 5. A few times I think I just kept being asleep. But yeah, so, we get used to it. I guess that'll be the answer to your question. But in terms of natural disasters, Vilcabamba, Loja, it's not an area that has fault from my understanding, it's not an area that has fault lines to where the epicenter could be here. I might be wrong. I was told maybe many years back, like 100 years ago or something, there was an earthquake in Loja. But typically this area doesn't get earthquakes, so I haven't seen any or heard of any damages being done here by earthquakes. But it's actually very cool to feel an earthquake. There was one time we woke up probably early in the morning, like before the sun came out, and the bed was shaking, and I was like, am I dreaming? Like, what is going on? And in the end, it was an earthquake, and it's got this interesting apocalyptic feel to it. It's like, whoa, something's happening. Is this gonna ever stop? And that one time it was a long one. I think it was probably 2-minute long. And like I said, yeah, the epicenter on the coast, sometimes in the Peruvian jungle. Most of the times it's in the Peruvian jungle where the earthquakes are, and we can feel them a little bit here. All right. Hola, Christopher and Tisha. Hola, amigos. Juliette Goudreau is asking if I'm from Quebec. Indeed, je suis Québécois. I'm from Canada, Quebec, the province of Quebec, somewhere in the suburbs of Montreal, somewhere about 45 minutes outside of Montreal is where I'm originally from. So French is my first language, but I have lived in English-speaking Canada, and I've also lived in the United States a little bit, and I've been living here now for 11 years in Ecuador. Roman, have I been to Sapotillo? Any thoughts on that area versus Vilcabamba? Roman, I have never been to Sapotillo, so I'm not the right person. Jesse used to spend a little bit of time there. My understanding, it's more flat than Vilcabamba. So you've got, there's still some rolling hills, but you don't have the high mountains, the high Andes mountains like here. It's definitely a lot hotter, a lot warmer. I believe it's pretty dry though, even though there is water, and still some rain. It's still drier probably than here right by the national forest. They get less rainfall, but it's an ideal area for a lot of agricultural products. What I can tell you about Sapotillo, because I know about it from living here for a while, all the coconuts we drink here in Vilcabamba come from Sapotillo. So there's mass amount of coconut palm farms, I guess. And most of the coconuts in Ecuador come from that area. Some coconuts come from the coast as well, but Sapotillo is really the area where a lot of the coconuts come from. Also, goats products. So you can get goat's milk, goat's cheese, probably the meat as well from Sapotillo. You can buy goat manure, big bags of it. They come from Sapotillo. People come and bring them from over there. What else? Watermelons. They've grown in Sapotillo as well. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff, but papayas and things like that as well. But it's a really good area for agriculture. That's what it's known for. I believe land is much cheaper there. The climate is not very desirable or comfortable to live, but at least from most people's perspective. But very good spot for agriculture. I believe there is maybe some areas that don't have a lot of water, so you have to check that for sure if you're going to invest in property there, because it's kind of like a desert, a little bit of a desert. But there's irrigation, there are water, there are rivers there. So, but I think water is a little bit scarce. That's my understanding of Sapotillo. All right. Are there many Canucks in Vilcabamba and Loja? Yes, there are definitely. So yeah, Vilcabamba is an area that attracts expats, foreigners. Most of them, the majority of the expats here would be Americans. I would say number two statistically would be Canadians. So, French Canadians, they're not very many. I probably can count them on two hands. But English speaking Canadians, those are the majority. And are there many? That's a good question. There's definitely in the hundreds for sure of Canadians here. I wouldn't know exactly how many, but it's the second highest population of expats here would be Canadian. So there's quite a few, and more of them are coming here. I would say in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of Canadians coming here. In general, people that were not too happy about how the government, some of the things that were happening, measures and things like this, restrictions during COVID, et cetera, that were happening in Canada. Some of those people were the ones coming here from Canada. So yeah, there's a good amount of Canadians here. It's nice to meet fellow Canucks. Okay, good. Another question came in. Please write your comments and your questions in the chat. If we run out of questions, I'm gonna have to go. And so if you guys want to keep the stream going, just keep asking some questions and I'll be happy to answer them. Looks like, from Roman, looks like the areas around Macara could be good for agriculture. Have you heard anything? Definitely. Macara is also known for agriculture. There's one of the things I know is grown there a lot is rice. You see those big bags of rice here. Macareño. A lot of the rice in Ecuador, I believe, is grown in Macara. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff growing there as well. I'm also not, I've gone through Macara to go to Peru when I traveled to Peru many years back with my wife. You have to go through the border crossing in Macara, which is, I believe, the biggest border crossing between Ecuador and Peru. It's right over there by, I forget. Yeah, I think it's called Macara, actually, the actual border crossing, or there might be another town, another name there. But anyways, I've driven past, by bus. So, but I'm not. I've never been there to visit it. So, that's what I can tell you there. Nathan, hi Carl. Is it unusually cold there lately? It sounds like Cuenca weather. Interesting. So I don't know where you have heard that, Nathan. It has been colder for sure for this time of year, especially. But I think mostly what's been happening is, typically this time of year is where the rain stops. You get blue skies, you get full sun, but you also get the wind that sort of starts picking up during this time of year. And I think what we've had this year is at the tail end of the rainy season, the wind started to pick up, where usually it would be dry and you'd have blue skies, but this year we've had just kind of cloudy skies and wind at the same time. So it felt like it was colder. I still would walk around with short sleeve shirts. I've never had to wear a jacket or felt cold. But it was colder than usual. But I think for most people that are used to Cuenca weather and even Loja weather, Vilcabamba wasn't what you would call cold, but it was definitely colder than what we're usually used to this time of year. Are there often problems with the internet? No, I would say, Hans, not really. I would say the internet's really good now in this area. Most places, most areas around Vilcabamba and Loja and Malacatos and all the popular places where people want to live have fiber optic internet. Even remote areas actually have now fiber optic internet, which is it's the fiber optic cables, and it's high speed internet. It's very fast. Once in a while, if they're working on the line, it will happen where you know, if well, what I know about the fiber optic cables is they're very fragile. So if somehow one of them breaks, if one of them was going through the trees or something, they're fragile, they snap and they break, and then you'll have an issue. But the internet provider will, you call them up, tell them, they come, they fix it up pretty much right away. And other than that, once in a while, maybe if the power shuts down or something, you'll run out of internet, which is very rare. It's happened like once last week where we live here. They were working on the electric lines. They're putting some new electricity in some areas, which is also interesting. The infrastructure is definitely improving in a lot of areas, but some places that didn't have power are now going to have power. And while they were doing that, they were moving the posts here, is what I think was going on. And we ran out of power for half an hour, 25 minutes, something like that. So it's pretty quick. Okay. Once the Canadian paperwork is done, Juliet. Please feel free to resend your question, Juliet. Nathan, what are some particularities of the dialect of Spanish in Vilcabamba? That's another interesting question. I was out today with clients. I have a good client who became a friend who's taking Spanish lessons with a Spanish teacher that we have here in Vilcabamba. She's really, really good. If you want to email me at Carl@AB Ecuador, I can give you her contact. If you want to learn Spanish, she also teaches online lessons. But yeah, I was out with him and he was mentioning he'd been taking lessons. Even he was back in his home country and he was planning on coming back here, and he'd been taking lessons, him and his children. And basically we started talking about different dialects, and the other local guy that was there was saying, it's good if you learn Spanish from a Lojano, because Lojanos, people from the city of Loja, the province of Loja, they speak proper Spanish. And I had been told this before, that Loja actually won prizes for the most authentic Spanish from Castilla, the Castellano, which is the form of Spanish that came from Spain. And Loja speaks proper Spanish. It's clear, it's well spoken. So that's like Loja. Loja is the major city there. Vilcabamba is countryside, so you got a little more countryside folks in a way that are maybe less educated and that type of thing. So their Spanish might be a little rougher. It's still good Spanish, but some expressions might be a little more like countryside, countryside Spanish, I guess is how you describe it. But yes, I can understand anything and everything here. Most people speak, very clear Spanish. So there's not really any dialect specifically here. It's Castellano. How long is the process once in Ecuador? How long is the process once in Ecuador, i.e. 90 days, or can we stay longer waiting for temporary visa for 2 years? Right, so I'm not completely aware of the intricacies of the difference between the temporary residency or the permanent residency. What I can tell you is, as a foreigner, you can come into Ecuador, you automatically get a 3 months a tourist visa, which you can then renew and have basically 90 days. You get 90 days and you can renew another 90 days. So you get 180 days, just about 6 months, where you can stay here without any issues. After that, well, during that time, you have time to apply for some type of other type of visas, which will be more long-term. So there are volunteer visas, there are work visas, there are professional visas, investors visas, pensioners visas. All of those are options. And you have to consult with an attorney and stuff. But yeah, if you apply for those types of visas, you basically can live here, not temporarily, but permanently. So for us, what we did, it's kind of like the easy way. For us, it was easy. For others, it might not be the best idea, but we had a child here in Ecuador. Our son was born here. The fact that he was born in the Ecuadorian territory, he got permanent citizenship. My son is an Ecuadorian citizen. And then through that, both the parents get permanent residency. Of course, you have to apply for it. But this is the way we did it. Now, if you invest $42,500 in Ecuador, you can get an investor's visa. You could put that in a CD, which means you get interest-producing investment at a bank here in Ecuador, at the central bank. It's around, I think, 7 or 8% per year. So it's very high, comparatively to other places. And with having that money in the bank, you can get permanent residency. If you buy property, that's at least that amount. You can also get permanent residency through that. But yeah, there is a temporary residency process that takes about 2 years. That's the one that To my understanding, you have to live here and be here for 9 months. Sorry, I apologize. You have to be here for the first 2 years. You can only leave for 3 months. So you have to be in Ecuador for the first 21 months, and you can only live during that time for 3 months, and then you can then get the permanent residency. Those are the requirements from what I understand. Roman, how often do city buses go to Vilcabamba to Loja? What's the price? They leave about every half an hour. That would be my guess. 15 minutes, half an hour. You got a bus. They're going back and forth between Loja and Vilcabamba, so it's very often. There's also another type of transportation called the taxi ruta. They're shared taxi. They're a cooperative that goes back and forth between Loja and Vilcabamba. It costs $3 per person, so you can rent the whole taxi for $12. Otherwise, you share it per person. So if you want 2 seats, you can pay $6 to have more space or something. And it's much faster. So I would prefer doing that if I didn't have a vehicle. Go with Taxi Ruta because you get it to Loja in 45 minutes, maybe even under that. Whereas if you take the bus, it'll take about an hour and 10, 15 minutes, something like that, because they do stop, on the way. They go through Malacatos, which is a detour as well. And the price for the bus is just around $1.50 to $2. I don't know exactly, but it used to be like $1.25, but that went up a little bit. But it's still under $2, I'm pretty sure. And the taxi ruta, as I said, is $3, the shared taxi. Does Ecuador have lots of government-owned lands? Do they ever sell it to the public? That's a good question, Roman. I would say the government-owned lands are the national park, the national forest, those types of things. Of course, governmental buildings, etc. But I don't know if the government just owns like a whole bunch of land. I don't have the answer to your question, and I doubt that they would sell it to the public. But I really haven't heard about government-owned land here, other than the national parks and things like this. Here in Vilcabamba, we have the Podocarpus National Park. It's a cloud forest. It's one of the biggest national parks in Ecuador, if not the biggest, actually. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. There's lakes up there. It's colder up in the mountains. It's the high Andes. It's multiple mountain ranges that go between Loja to Zamora and all the way down to Zuba. You can see it on Google Maps. It's very large. It's all green up there. Most of the first rains that we get here in Vilcabamba come from the Podocarpus National Forest. So that's why we have, it's a blessing. Vilcabamba is great because it's kind of dry, but it also gets a lot of the first rainfalls from the Podocarpus Mountains, and the rivers are clean, they're pure. There's lots of waters coming from springs in some areas. In one side of Vilcabamba, let's say, there's a lot of that. The further east you go, the drier it gets, sort of. Okay. Sunrise Homestead. How far is Cuenca from Loja by ground? Cuenca is about 3.5, 4 hours drive from Loja. I don't know exactly how many kilometers that is, but the road is paved. It's a drivable road. I've driven it many times. It is a windy road for those who are not used to mountainous areas. You don't have any highways here that are like straight lines, at least in the Andes. On the coast, you'll find a lot more of that. But here, you've got windy roads through the mountains, through the valleys. You get used to it. It's actually a very fun drive to go to, fun and beautiful drive to go between Loja and Cuenca. Awesome comments on the Spanish in the area. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate it very much. Astrubal Vivanco. This is right. Lojanos speak clear Spanish. Indeed, yeah. That's I've been told that multiple times. It's one of the things you hear if you spend enough time in Loja. Lojanos will kind of boast about it. I think it's true. The Spanish is very clear here. In a way, I feel lucky that I've learned to speak Spanish here because I feel like I speak proper, well-spoken, clear Spanish. So that's great. Roman, what hard to get items would you bring from the US or Canada in a container or suitcases if you could go back in time? That's a good question also, Roman. One thing that I hear a lot are power tools. You can find power tools here, but they're so much more expensive. Import taxes are high for certain items. It seems like power tools are one of them. You're looking at sometimes double or triple even for certain tools. So I hear from a lot of people that they would have brought their tools down in a container. That's definitely one thing. And I think that's true. I bought tools here. I didn't have tools over there back home. So But I think, yeah, that's one thing people say. What else? Things like clothing, shoes, things like that. It's not like you can't find those here, but usually quality might be lower. And for good, high quality stuff, you're paying a huge premium here. Now that might have changed. I think import taxes have gone down a little bit in the last few years, but still, those types of things. Like I still buy clothes online. I still buy my shoes online and get them shipped here because it's very hard to find, sizes here for example. That's definitely one thing I'd bring down. What else? I can't really think of anything else off the top of my mind here. If you've got valuables that are, special value to you, you won't be able to find that, like, special furnitures and, things that you've passed down in generations in the family and that type of stuff, like nice wood furnitures. IKEA stuff, I wouldn't bring that stuff down. But if you have like some very special, bedside tables or desks that are unique, those you won't be able to find here for sure. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, I can't really think of anything else right now. All right. Yeah, Juliet. Yeah, so yeah, you can definitely stay here for 90 days, extend your stay and stay here for 6 months without an issue. After 6 months, you do have to leave the country unless you find another way to have, some other visa. How safe do you feel living there from 1 to 10 compared to Canada? That's a really good question, Nathan. I've been here for 11 years. I almost don't remember what it's like to live in Canada to some extent. No, that to be fair, we went back to Canada, I think four years ago. We spent 6 months there. And, I felt very safe in Canada. I have to say where I'm from, it's a very safe place to live. So, I'm not from a big city. Some big cities in Canada there's crime, there's, a little more dangerous areas. So I would say it's comparable. It's comparable. I feel very safe here personally. Of course, I'm a man. I'm, taller than the average Ecuadorian and that kind of thing. So, people tell me that all the time. They're like, well, of course you feel safe. You're a big guy, right? But I would say like there was one instance that someone attempted to steal something from my backpack. I was on the bus going to Quito. I fell asleep. Someone went under my seat, took my computer and my phone out of my backpack. And I got really lucky that I woke up when that was happening. I turned around and noticed and just stood up, started, raised my voice, ladrones, ladrones, me están robando. They tried to rob me. And the guys were like, no, 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 we didn't do anything. And they ran away. They left my computer and my camera under my seat. That's, street wisdom that I didn't have. I just didn't think about it. But luckily, I didn't get robbed. But that was my only instance of ever having anything happening to me. Now, that being said, there are little things that happen here. Petty theft is a common, just like the example I gave. If you leave your phone in your car on the seat, you leave the windows down, someone might reach in and steal your phone. Vilcabamba, honestly, that just does not happen around here very much. In a bigger city like Loja, that can happen more so. But yeah, I would say personally, I feel very safe. But that being said, there's certain areas you want to have good relationship with your neighbors. You want to have neighborhood watches. You want to know who's around you, who's supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be there where you live. And just, for me, that's been, part of my success here. I think it's like having good relationships with your neighbors, like I said, making sure everyone knows you, making sure you have a good reputation in the community, you're helping people out, you're there when someone needs help. It's very community relationships based here. If you have the right attitude, if you're kind to people, if you're generous, if you're loving, if you're a valuable asset for the community, people got your back. If you're kind of a jerk and disrespect people, you don't pay your employees well, you're kind of rude to people, then maybe your people won't have your back. So it's all about your attitude. It's all about fitting in to the community, having a good vibe, a good relationship, being helpful and kind and generous with people, and people will do the same to you, right? Just like anywhere else in the world, really. But it's what I feel like, it's helped me in my journey here. All right. So yeah, from 1 to 10, sorry, I didn't say from 1 to 10. I would say, 8, 9, right? I won't put it at 10 because there are little things, but yeah, probably somewhere around 8, I would say I feel about safe like that. Are there any baseball fields in Loja State? I don't know. I don't think so. I've never seen or heard it, but I might be wrong. Maybe look it up on Google, Loja, Ecuador, baseball. There might be something that I'm not aware of, but I didn't think there was. It's not a very popular sport here. Interestingly enough, it's very popular in Venezuela, right? So I think Ecuador, soccer, soccer, football, right, is the national sport here. There's soccer fields everywhere. And then equa volley, which is a form of volleyball, that's also very popular. Those are the two things. Like everybody knows how to play soccer and equa volley. Everything else is, there's basketball, there are other sports, but baseball, I don't think so. All right. How much does it cost? I'm sorry, what is this here? Okay. Oh yeah. What areas rain too much near Vilcabamba? Which cities would you not live in but are still beautiful? Rained too much. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so personally, and this is, my personal opinion, everyone's different because some people love those areas, but I personally wouldn't live down in Valladolid, Palanda, Zumba, Zamora, right? I would prefer not living in those areas for the reason you mentioned. It rains a lot. It's more humid. It's where the rainforest. It's where the Amazonian area starts as you're going down into the continental divide towards the other side of the Andes Mountains. Those areas are very lush, very green, beautiful, lots of water, rivers, waterfalls, amazing wildlife, bugs like you've never seen before, beautiful animals, birds. There's all sorts of things. There's snakes, right? There's a bit of everything there. But it rains a lot. It's warmer. It's humid. You're going to have more issues with mold. You're going to have more issues with drainage of your property. There's an overabundance of water there. Whereas here, you have a little bit of the opposite. In the dry season, there's a bit of a lack of water, just to put it in a certain way. It rains less. You have to water your crops. You have to have irrigation. You have to have some type of irrigation system set up. Otherwise, your plants will struggle. Well, over there, you don't have that at all. You have irrigation all year round. It's always wet. It's always muddy. It's always, there's so much water in the ground. So the vegetation loves that, right? To get a lot of water. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't live in those areas. And then there's others, but those are the ones around here. If you go south from Vilcabamba, you get to Yangana, past Yangana, you're going down into Valladolid, Palanda, Zumba, and then you cross it over to Peru. Those areas are very wet, very humid, beautiful, stunning beauty of nature. I mean, really. But I personally prefer the weather here. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, how much does it cost to hire day laborers for agricultural help? More or less, $20 a day is about the average that you're looking at hiring help here. So for like harvesting coffee and like sugar cane and things like this, I'm told that Ecuadorians sometimes will pay even less than that. They'll pay their workers like 10, 12, $15. I don't know. It depends on the situation, right? But I would say overall, paying your employees $20 a day, that's sort of the minimum that I would recommend paying your employees if you have. You can give them a little more depending on their level of expertise, skills. If you're hiring a maestro, a builder, you asked about agriculture, but if you're hiring like a maestro builder and he speaks fluent English, you can't pay him $20. You have to pay him maybe 30, right? Because he's much more valuable. It's kind of based on that. Yeah, baseball is not very popular in Ecuador, indeed. Celeste. Hans, have you ever seen anyone rollerblading in Ecuador? Yeah, of course. There are people that rollerblade here in Vilcabamba, actually. There's a guy who, I used to see him all the time on his rollerblades. I don't know what he does now. But there are people rollerblading for sure. The roads in some areas are a little bumpy for that, right? But overall, downtown Vilcabamba, you're looking at a very comfortable area for rollerblading. Definitely. There's a big skate park in Loja that you can go there and rollerblade, skateboard as well. Yep. Okay. Astrubal is telling us that baseball, you can see more in Guayaquil. Yeyo Uraga is the name of the baseball field. Interesting. Okay, well, thank you. I did not know that, but that's good. That's good. There's baseball then in Guayaquil, the biggest city of Ecuador. All right. Which is easier for you now, Spanish or English? Well, English is still easier for me, believe it or not. French is my first language, but I almost feel like my English is better than my French now because it's kind of my main language that I speak for many years now. But Spanish comes naturally as well now because living here, a lot of a lot of what I do is also in the Spanish language. So yeah, English, it'd still be easier for me to speak English now. I mean, I can't, I can't forget my French either, right? It's my first language, but Juliet just wrote French in the comments. Um, I think I can speak both the three languages pretty well at this point. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions here in the chat. I'll wait, for a few minutes to see if anything else comes in. Otherwise, we can call it a day. All right. Nathan says, are there any areas near Vilcabamba with even more favorable weather? In my personal opinion, once again, these things are subjective, right? Weather, comfort, right? All of that. Somebody might like it warmer, someone might feel more comfortable in cooler weather. I personally think Vilcabamba is the best weather in Ecuador that I know of, right? And I've traveled all around the country. I've been to Quito, I've been to the Amazon, I've been to Guayaquil, the coast. I've been down south, right, all the way to Peru. Vilcabamba is known as the best weather in Ecuador. It has that fame already. I think it's extremely comfortable here. In the last couple of weeks, when I talked about it being cooler than usual, it was significantly cooler, noticeably cooler, to where I even had a client who was down here, who literally told me after being here for a week, he was like, I really thought it would be warm here. It's not warm enough for me, so we decided we're not going to move here. And I was like, hey, just wait up, it's going to get warm. Like, don't worry, the dry season is going to start soon, and you'll have blue skies. Today was really hot. I get a lot of sun when I go out in the sun, and you do get sunburn sometimes if you spend too much time there. But yeah, it's basically right there. 20 to 28 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that's your daytime average. I think it's right around 23 to 25. That's sort of what Vilcabamba is like. You can look it up online. I'm not really good when it comes to temperatures because I get confused with Celsius and Fahrenheit because everyone here thinks the Americans at least all think in Fahrenheit. And but yes, it's Vilcabamba is great weather. Honestly, that's what I can tell you. Oh, you had a small earthquake in Cuenca. Well, if you did, I haven't felt it here, and maybe people did feel it here, but I haven't. And I would think that Cuenca is pretty close. I mean, geographically, like we're just uh, birds. Birds by sky. You're very close in kilometers. It might even be less than 100 kilometers from Cuenca to Vilcabamba, or maybe a little more than that. But still, I didn't feel the earthquake here, but that's interesting. Roman asks, any new big construction projects in the Vilcabamba or Loja area to speak of? Roads, building, parks, etc. Yeah, big new construction. There's a big one right as you're coming into Vilcabamba from Loja. You can see on the right-hand side of the road, there's this big development that there's bulldozers in there. They're flattening up areas. They're putting roads in. It's going to be like a new neighborhood of Vilcabamba. It was approved. The project was approved. I was told there's going to be about 80 lots there. They're all pre-sold, so mostly local people, I believe, have bought into those lots. Yeah, that's 80 new houses that are going to be going up just around Vilcabamba. Might not sound like much for other compared to other places. For here, it's a small town. You got 5, 6, 7,000 people. We're not really sure of the exact figures. The downtown square says 5,000. I'm sure we're up closer to 7,000, something like that. But yeah, 80 new construction there is going to be significant. New roads, there's new roads being put in all over the place, actually, in rural areas. A lot of times neighbors get together, they pool in money, they build a new road in some areas that used to be only trails, walking trails, horse trails. Now there's new drivable roads being put up. I'm thinking of Masanamaca, Aranyangana, there's new roads. Different areas, Kinara, there's new roads being put in as well. Yeah, so definitely happening. Parks, I can't think of any parks right now, but there's different. I see new volleyball courts, the soccer fields, those types of things. There's a communal or like a new communal building being put in the neighborhood in Vilcabamba. These types of things are happening here for sure. Okay, how hard is it to start a small business where you're at? Well, hard, easy, those are subjective words, right? But I would say, in my opinion, from my perspective, it's very easy, right? People start up new businesses all the time in Vilcabamba. most of the times you don't need very much permits or these types of things. There are a lot of people who produce food products, even herbal medicinal products, artisanal type of products, whether it be food and other things, and they sell them in the organic market, in the local markets, at different stores around town. So you could start a little home business where you cook stuff in your kitchen or you produce something at your house. You put it on Facebook, the Vilcabamba Facebook groups. You put it on. You go to the market. You sell it. There are people walking around literally in the street with whatever they're selling, and so those are like very simple, rudimentary businesses. But you can definitely start like that, and it's very easy to speak of. Also, getting permits for producing some type of products is getting a lot easier. We have, for example, Jesse's wife, who's making kombucha. Now she's got all her permitting. She's selling her products all over Vilcabamba. She's starting to sell in other towns and other cities as well around Ecuador. And I'm told it's very easy for her to get those permits. I used to have a small business. I would make products out of my house as well and sell them in various areas. Did that for a while. And, if you've got some type of trade, some type of skill, if you're a carpenter, you bring your tools, you buy tools, you can start making carpentry here, sell furniture, offer your services to build someone's kitchen cabinets, or chairs, tables, etc. If you've got a trade, if you're a hairdresser, you can open up a shop. If you're you do nails, you can do that. Like, those things are being done here already. But like, if you've got some unique talent or skill, you can bring it here. The advantage that expats have, in my opinion, is that you speak English. Other foreigners can relate to you. You come from the same culture. They might be more inclined to go to you rather than to an Ecuadorian person, just because you have some things in common. So if you're coming here, you got a skill, you got an idea of some type of business. Overall, I think it's pretty easy to do. Is it possible to move Vilcabamba and bring one container? Yes, definitely possible. A lot of people do that. There's shipping agents that bring in shipping containers for you. We can refer you to those types of people. Feel free to contact me at carl@abecuador.com, and I can hook you up and put you in touch with the shipping agent that we work with, Paul out of Cuenca, and he can help you, guide you through the whole process. I don't know prices. I know there's different options. You can bring a 20-footer or a 40-footer, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. You can do that and bring all of your stuff from where you're from. Actually, just to FYI, if you want to bring a container down, you can bring the container tax-free once you get residency. So once you get permanent residency in Ecuador, you're allowed to bring a container tax-free, which saves you a lot of money, basically. All right. Okay. Nice. Lots of questions here. Roman, would you recommend putting in ceiling fans into a new building, or is it necessary? Same question for heating. Not necessary, my friend. We have little fans, electrical fans. Like, if it's really hot, sometimes we'll turn it on. But most places don't have ceiling fans. Same thing goes for heating. Most places here don't have any type of heating. You can get, some people, like we have in our bedroom, my wife likes to turn it on. It's a little, a little unit. It looks like a fireplace, but it's electrical and it generates heat at night. You can put that in, but there's no heating in houses. Back in the days, there was fireplaces. That was the main thing. But I don't think any house here has heating. Most houses are built with bricks or adobe blocks, which has this thermal mass thing, to where when it's cold outside, the heat from the walls will come in. So those types of things are common for heating. But yeah, I would say maybe fans. Yes, maybe you'll want to buy a few fans if you feel hot, on a hot day, especially in the rainy season where it's more humid. You get a little more humidity in the air, but it's still not much. Still relatively dry. All right. Nathan, can children freely play around Vilcabamba, or they need to be watched closely? That's a good question. I would say overall, lots of children, expat children, are playing freely downtown Vilcabamba anytime during the day, maybe up until the evening, where when it gets dark, it's probably better to watch them. I would say, though, that's a preference, right? I wouldn't tell you like just leave your kids go run freely. If you're protective, if you want to make sure, I would say it's good to watch them, or at least have maybe an adult present while the kids play, at least around somewhere if something happens. But I know lots of families that live in town The kids just walk from the house. They walk to school. They go downtown Vilcabamba. They go play, and they drive their bike, ride their bikes around Vilcabamba freely at most times of the day, except like I said, at night. And it's very, very safe. I mean, very, very safe, right? My wife, she wouldn't let my son go for free, like go free in downtown Vilcabamba. She'd want us to keep an eye on him, just for caution. But I know lots of families, like I said, that they let their kids go free. Not an issue at all. All right. Y a-t-il des Québécois à Vilcabamba? Okay. So Paul is asking, are there any other people from Quebec in Vilcabamba? Nice, excellent. Well, cool. So these guys are coming down. I'm just translating from French in a few weeks, in a couple of weeks. So yeah, there are definitely other people from Quebec. I hope you understand what I'm saying in English. But there are definitely lots of not lots though. There are some other people from Quebec. I'm one of them. There's a handful of us, maybe 10 to 20, somewhere around there. But yeah, it'd be great to have more. So if you come down, if you got some friends, other people from there coming down, I'd be happy to introduce you. And if you need anything, please feel free to ask me. Okay, it's in the 90s right now in New York. Interesting. Yeah, that's hot. It's definitely warm. Our homes built with central air. Central air. No, that's very uncommon here. If you're talking about like central air conditioning, very few homes have that. On the coast, yes, on the coast of Ecuador, it's hot, it's humid most of the year. It's good to have some type of cooling in your house. Are there any movie theaters that show original English shows in Loja? Interesting question, Nathan. In general, no. The movie theater in Loja, I believe there's only one. They might be more that I'm not aware of, but the main one shows movies in Spanish. But if there's a big enough group of people, which I don't know what number is there, but there have been showings of different movies in English in Loja. If enough people got together and said, hey, we all want to go watch this movie, the movie theater will play it in English if there's enough demand for it at a certain time that you have to reserve for that, of course. I don't know if it's 30, 40 people. I forget exactly how many it is, but they did that with Star Wars a whole bunch of times with all the different new Star Wars movies that came out. And they rented the whole place. And I've never been, but I know it can be done. If buying a condo apartment in Loja as a Canadian investor, are there management companies that would rent it out, etc., for the owner? So we actually are working on that currently at Abundant Living to have a branch of the company that would be kind of geared towards property management. I don't know of any property management companies currently, so it's definitely an interesting idea to start. I would say most of the time you find some type of trusted employee, like let's say a caretaker or a gardener or some person that you trust, and you put them in charge of that. So while you're gone, right? Sometimes different realtors will do it. I mean, we will do that sometimes for people just to help out. Like while they're not living here, we have the keys. We can find we can find tenants and sort of help facilitate. But there's no official formal company. Now, if you need help with that, feel free to contact us. I think we could probably help you if you got something in Loja to some extent. Mustafa, does watermelon grow in Zamora region? Definitely, Zamora watermelons will grow there. I think it's possible. It's possible it might be too humid for proper ripening, or watermelon I think is very specific. You wouldn't want it sitting in a puddle, right, of water. You want it to dry out properly, get enough sunshine. So maybe in a greenhouse would be amazing, honestly, in Zamora. Out there, I'm sure it will grow. Like watermelon will grow there, but it might not be the ideal region if you want to do watermelon production. I know watermelons do really well in Sapotillo, like I said, which is a little more of a desert somewhat. And it also does really well in and around the Santo Domingo area. There used to be a guy that would come down from Santo Domingo with a truckload of pineapples and watermelons, and he grew them all over there in Santo Domingo. Tocayo, hey, what's up, Carlos? How you doing? I need to get back to you on on something later. All right, Tocayo is, for those who don't know, Tocayo is when two people have the same name. So Carlos and Carl, which people call me Carlos here, we're Tocayos because we got the same first name. What time at night does Vilca shut? As in restaurants, food vendors type thing. Probably 9 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock. There's still stores open, like the main corner stores in downtown Vilcabamba. I think they probably close around 9, maybe 10. That's my guess. I'm not sure exactly. Do they have food delivery services available in Vilca? Yes, some restaurants offer food delivery services. Typically, what people do, they'll hire a taxi. They'll say, "Hey, can you go to this restaurant, order this for me, and deliver it to me, and you pay for the taxi fees." And some restaurants will do that for you. You know, they'll charge you, and then they'll send it with taxi services. That's usually the most reliable and available type of transportation for those types. But some restaurants have their own delivery motorcycles and things like that as well. Where in Quebec are you from? Well, I can tell you, I was born and raised in Candiac, just south of Montreal, and then I lived most of my teenage life in Saint Hyacinthe, about 45 minutes, would be like east of Montreal. Are the bakeries in Vilca as good as Quebec City? Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm sure there's good bakeries in Quebec cities. There's a nice French bakery in Vilcabamba. Frenchman owns it, and he makes croissants and all sorts of different good baked goods, baguettes and French bread. That's really good. So definitely check it out. It's super cheap. You can get a baguette for $1 or something, $1.25, and it's good. It's good, real authentic French bakery. Okay, how far from Central Vilcabamba to the closest swimming hole and waterfall? Okay, waterfall, a real legit waterfall. You have to hike up the mountain. There's not like waterfalls that are that are close to Vilcabamba. I mean, it's close enough. You do about a 5-10 minute drive in a car, and then you hike for about an hour and get to the main, Cascada El Palto. And then swimming holes, though, those are all along the rivers, and those are very close by. I mean, you can go swim. You can walk for 5 minutes, literally 5-10 minutes tops to the nearest river, and there's a bunch of different swimming holes there you can go to on the river trail. So all around Vilcabamba, there's a trail system that follows both sides of the river. You can go for nice walks there. It's nice. There's different areas you can swim for sure, and it's just a really beautiful trail with bamboo and different trees, and you're mostly out of the sun for most of the time, and it's nice. You can go on a bike ride there as well. Okay, all right, Patrick. Hey, what's up, Patrick? Nice to see you on the stream today. Everything's good. We've got this retreat coming up in 2 days. We're going to be busy for 8 days. It's going to be a little hectic. I'm going to be especially very busy going out with people, so that's exciting. Patrick, we've spoken before. I'm excited for you to come down. Let me know when you'll be here, and I'll be happy to meet you. Janos Nimeth. There is single Ecuadorian ladies looking for true love in Vilcabamba. I love to meet single lady. All right. Good, man. Come down. There's plenty of single ladies down here. All right, Juliet. Can unjab enter Ecuador and expect to stay hassle-free, non-baited to be jabbed to access? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I mean, right now, there is no mandates for entry in Ecuador when it comes to, the jab, right? That being said, oh, yeah, cool. That being said, you do need a negative PCR test to be able to come into Ecuador. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So I was told some people, will put something together, and it's not like, anyways, you know what I'm saying? So you can definitely come here without being jabbed, but you do need a negative PCR test. At this point, there's no requirement for jab papers or whatever for anything in Ecuador. Now, that can always change. These things have changed, right? It became mandatory for a while. Then they got away. They put it away. I mean, it's not required at all. It was for like a few months only, honestly, maybe 2 or 3 months max. So yeah, definitely not mandatory. Nor do I honestly foresee that it could ever become mandatory personally, but you never know the future, right? Juliet, yeah, and you said your son studied horticulture in St. Hyacinthe. That's interesting. That's where I grew up. Will you hold another retreat in September or October? We are looking at end of September for our next retreat. So we're thinking, I think September 24th, if I'm not mistaken, on a Saturday. That's what we're looking at. Most likely, we will make it happen then. Please contact us if you're interested. Let us know, because we want to make sure there's enough interest for it, because they're pretty close, in terms of time. But we have a few people that are considering coming in September, so we think we should make it happen then, end of September. So Juliet, we'd love to see you here. Let me know if you want to participate. Nathan, what's the best option for kids' education in Vilca? So it depends on the kid's age. I think anything under 12, there's an alternative school named La Calandria. Lots of families, expat families, have their children there. Older than that, you would have to go through the public high school in Vilcabamba, or private high schools, middle school, high schools in Loja, which there's a lot of them in Loja, in the city of Loja. In Vilcabamba, there's only, I believe, one option, is the colegio. They call it colegio. It's like the middle school and high school, and those are the best options. We personally choose to homeschool our children through an online program from Canada that my wife does with my son. Our daughter's still young, but that's what we've chosen. There are talks of creating a different school here. There are talks of people putting something together, so that could potentially happen in the near future. But so far, those are the options here. Yeah, like Calandria, they teach math, etc., all that stuff. It's they have like Ecuadorian curriculum. I'm not too familiar. I'm not really sure exactly, but they definitely teach math and Spanish and English and those types of things. Science and that type of stuff. All right. If there are no more questions, all right. I'm gonna answer one more question here from Roman. I have to run. I have a 6 o'clock appointment in Vilca, and I'm at home right now. So I'm gonna answer your question, Roman, and then I'll have to say goodbye, and we'll see you. Hopefully we can do a stream next week during the retreat. All right. Does Vilcabamba have a good mayor or city planners? Does Vilcabamba have a good roadmap planned for it, or is it more whimsical? Yeah, that's a good question, Roman. Honestly, the mayor right now is going to well, the elections are coming up pretty soon for the mayor, so that potentially could change. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure, really. I don't really follow the local politics too much, but I think overall Vilcabamba, right, from like a general perspective, from the local perspective, Vilcabamba has become an area for tourism, an area for expats. The local people are very aware that it's a place that attracts a lot of expats, Americans, Canadians, Europeans, etc. And they want to bang on that. They want to focus on that. They want to promote tourism. They want to promote the sort of healthy, natural living type of thing, right? There's the senderos ecológicos. You've got so those are the ecological trails along the rivers. They're definitely continuing to maintain those and keeping them nice. There's what else? There's the Mandango, right? It's the famous mountain in the center of the valley. In the center of town, or it's the big, beautiful mountain that people hike to. That's protected, preserved area. A lot of people go there. You've got the waterfalls. You've got the Puerto Carpus National Park. So I think overall, that's sort of what is being emphasized. Vilcabamba, the Valley of Health, longevity, expats, tourism. The governments are trying to promote that as much as possible. So from that perspective, from that standpoint, I think Vilcabamba is going to continue to have those types of things, like I'm talking about, protected area, preserved natural areas. I don't think it's ever going to get crowded or too big, that type of thing. But yeah, I think the mayors, they change every few years. So yeah, but overall, Vilcabamba is really that place, and it's known throughout Ecuador as the Valley of Longevity. It's known throughout Ecuador. There's pure, pristine water. There's the healthy people that live a long time, right? And a lot of natural beauties, etc. And it is also somewhat sometimes called Gringo Bamba, also, because there are a lot of expats here. There are a lot of foreigners, which they call us gringos here. It's not an offensive thing. If you're called a gringo, it doesn't mean you're bad. They're not making fun of you. It's almost an endearing term for them. Anyone who's a gringo, they're a gringo, right? They're a gringuito. They're an expat, basically. They call anyone that's an expat a gringo, and it's not an insult at all for those who could get insulted by that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks for being here tonight. this afternoon. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks you so much for your questions. Once again, next week on Thursday, Jesse and I, and maybe Ryan, will try to be on the we'll try to do the stream during the retreat. We can answer your questions. We'll hopefully release a few videos while we're doing the retreat. It's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, you'll see. We have a videographer who will be with us the whole time. He'll be taking photos, videos, drone, all of that stuff, and we'll do a nice. We'll document the whole event so you guys can see what Vilcabamba is like, what the retreat's like for the next one. Hopefully, you want to participate with us. We'd love to have you here. And once again, yeah, we'd love to see you here one day. And until then, we'll see you next time. All right, guys, have a good evening, and we'll be in touch. Let me know if you have any, if you need anything, feel free to send me an email, and we'll see you next time. Ciao, ciao.